Understanding your needs and challenges, what makes your future safer and more successful, that is what engages us. That's what we are best at. To be able to foresee or prevent what may happen, the complexity and relationship between various factors in the event of an incident must be understood. At Alandia Loss Prevention, we consider every eventuality with a human perspective. We are a well-groomed team with knowledge in human factors, global shipping, ship management, and marine insurance. Alandia is a marine insurance entrepreneur with large resources and extensive expertise. We provide you with precise and accurate analyses. On a solid foundation, with more than 80 years of experience in marine insurance, our client promise is to meet the highest level of risk management needs.
Welcome to today's Lesson Learned webinar. This is a forum where our panel discuss incidents and accidents in their industry and what we learn from them. Our mission is to promote professional safety culture and share knowledge with you. As long as there are humans in organizations, there will be mistakes. The more honest and open we are about what went wrong, the better we can use the learnings for a safer future. Today, we have a broad panel that includes experts from both communication department and safety department in two different shipping organizations. We have a safety expert from aviation. And as an addition to the group, we have a safety culture expert that works with several shipping organizations to develop their safety culture. I think this panel will complete each other very well and bring a lot of knowledge what they have experienced to the table. You all have a Q&A button to push and ask questions. We will take them the last 10 minutes in the webinar. And now it's time for me to introduce today's moderator. This webinar will be moderated by Alandia's Director of Communications, Marina Stenfors.
Hi there, Johanna. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm really excited to be here today and to have the discussion with you all in the panel. I would like to start with asking you to introducing yourself and also in 1 minute or two discuss what your relation and experience to communication is. So please start, whoever wants to.
Okay, I can start. Hello.
Great.
Yeah, my name is Ken Johansson, and I've been working with communication since 2011. Before that, I've been in shipping for about 25 years now. I've been working with marketing and environmental issues and much different things, and even chartering. Now I've been working with communication for almost 10 years. And
Okay.
I'm responsible for communication in the Ecura group, not for the daughter companies. They have their own marketing departments and information departments.
So you basically work with the group communications then?
Yeah,
Yes. Okay, interesting. Good. And who else do we have here today?
Hello, I'm Josephine Falk. I'm a communication manager at Wallenius Marine and Ocean Birds, our concept for wind-powered ships. So I do communication and marketing both on a strategic level and writing our blog and publishing in social media. I'm a journalist in the beginning and been with the Wallenius family for the last 5 years.
Oh, great. I guess you have a good experience of, or you can utilize your experience of being a journalist in your profession very well, I guess, in your daily work.
Yes, I think much use of it. I think mostly thinking about the other person's perspective I think it's something that you use a lot as a journalist, and it's good also in communication internally.
Yeah. Very good to hear. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then
Yes, Inge.
Inge, yes,
Yeah,
please.
my name is Inge Taklemester, working in a company called Blå Media Mentor. We are based in Stavanger, Norway, with competence on safety, on culture, on communication and learning. And we assist our clients mainly in shipping to develop a culture characterized by safe and efficient operations, and put a lot of emphasis on team and leadership. Related to that, communication is of course a very important factor.
Yeah, very good. Welcome.
Thank you.
And so, do we have Peter
Yeah,
Judin?
good afternoon, Peter Judin. I'm the DPA and CSO for Wallenius Marine in Stockholm, but I'm DPA and CSO also for the vessels managed from our Singapore office. And my part of communication is mainly during crisis and after crisis, and all combined with accidents and incidents and things like that, information to the masters, information to the rest of the company, and well, that's about it. Not so much communication with other parties if it's not connected to an incident. So
Yes.
that is my part. I've been doing this since 2002, and before that I was at sea, and the last 5 years before going ashore was as a master on board Wallenius vessels.
Okay, very interesting. So what you're saying is that you have done crisis and accident communication since 2000, so over 20 years. Oh,
Yeah.
that's very interesting to hear what you have to tell us about then in a while. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then we have, do we have Arto Helovuo?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not from maritime industry, so I'm a stranger in this party, so to speak. So I come from aviation background. I'm a pilot at Finnair, and been flying in the airline for more than 20 years, since '98. On my way to becoming a pilot, I got very interested in safety issues, and especially human factors related to accidents and incidents. So I got involved in developing that area in aviation first. Did my master's thesis also on system safety and human factors. And for about 20 years, I've been working very much in aviation, but also with other safety critical industries such as nuclear power, maritime, railroad, etc. So my kind of a special interest is in human factors and system safety in that way. So I'm just trying to put that perspective into this discussion also.
Oh, very good. And very interesting to hear your point of view in a while. So do we have anyone left? Now I'm looking, is Sten Rosenqvist?
Yes, I can make my introduction. Sten Rosenqvist, Rederi AB Eckerö, Mariehamn. And I am a DPA and CSO for Eckerö Group's ships. I'm also the safety manager in the company. And from my background, I'm also a master mariner and worked in Wallenius and ACL, etc. So Peter Judin is an old colleague of mine. And since 2012, I have been safety manager in Eckerö. And my responsibility is to manage the company emergency group and handle any emergency situations. And in this capacity, one of the most important aspects is to provide correct and relevant information to our media responsible at our daughter companies, and also to my colleague Ken Johansson here at the main office. So we do frequent exercises, etc., and try to coordinate the information as good as we can.
Okay, so I guess you do these accident rehearsals kind of once in a while, where you go through it, that you simulate the accident, and then how media would contact you, and how you would spread the information inside the company and such.
Yes, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, very good. That's interesting to hear. So we have a very esteemed panel, as you can hear, and I would like to start the discussion now, and feel free to answer or to discuss very freely. I would like to start with the question on how do you communicate in your company? How could you describe the ways you are communicating? And maybe also if you could ponder on what works in the communication and what not, and why. So who would like to?
Okay,
to
can
start?
you also? I can start again.
Yeah, good.
And
Thank you.
do you mean internally or externally, or both?
Both, actually. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at Ria Bäckerö, we have many tools to communicate. We have one intranet, and that's mainly for internal use. So all information is out there, and everybody can reach it, even through the mobile phones. And then we have video conferencing. We use a brand called Lifesize, and that one we use for emergency too. And then we use Teams quite a lot for meetings, and the chat from Teams we use a lot internally. And the daughter companies are using social media for informing outside the organization, and of course email, phone. And I'm from the baby boom generation, so I don't recognize me in that text that you were sending us earlier.
Okay.
Because we according to that, we would prefer to make emails and so on. So mainly that are the two tools we are using. So yeah.
And you also have this crisis communications and so on, and how do you feel that is working, the accident communications?
Well, quite good. There are a little bit technical problems with the chat in the Lifesize app or the video conference system. We had a little bit trouble here when we had an exercise yesterday.
Yeah.
And but we are working on it, and we are wondering, we are thinking about changing to Teams, but it's not decided yet.
Okay. So overall, you think the communication is working well, both inside internal communications and external, if I can hear you correctly?
Yeah, I think so. It's more. One thing is maybe we should split into two groups when there is an incident, because when you are a lot of people communicating, maybe you should have a communications group and two different groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you basically share by emails then everything related to the accident or the incident, and then
No. Through the Lifesize video conference.
Okay. Yes.
And
Yes.
phones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you very much. And how about you else in the panel? How does it look in your companies?
I think we share the experience that it's what works is multi-channel to adapt the channel for the target group. We have also an internet that is especially built to handle time periods without internet when our ships are out in the oceans during these black spots. And we have an internal newsletter on email and digital screens on board and physical events, an Instagram account that travels between the vessels, showing life on board from different perspectives, and also, of course, Teams. I talked to our head of ship management who said that Teams is the biggest thing that had happened to communication to the vessels for the last 10 years. He thought it was a difference from before.
Yeah.
We share experience between the boats in a much easier way than before.
Yeah. Since you have that many channels, who is responsible for updating or producing the content? How have you solved that?
We have different responsibilities. For me, it's mostly Instagram account and internet and this external information. And then we have other persons that are directly related to our business that and our daily run operations that run the email newsletter and also Teams meetings. And I think Peter Udin can also go into more on the safety perspective there, which channels we use there. So we delegate a lot and communicate among each other who does what. And
okay. And do you have the experience that when an accident happens, that it's clear who is going to generate content where, and is it clear how everyone gets the latest information for that?
I think Peter should answer.
Okay.
Yeah, we do that. That's a part of the emergency response team, which I manage. I don't head it, but I manage the crisis plan and things like that. Yeah. And I'm sorry for the noise in the background, but they are changing the roof on my apartment building. I'm living on the top floor, so it's no that's a banging you hear in the background. So it's not me. I mean, when it comes to crisis management, to take it a long way, I'm the first point of contact from the vessels when everything happens, and I then initiate the crisis team if we find it necessary to initiate the whole crisis team. And we actually recently, end of last year, introduced a web-based tool to do this, which is called Crisis Pilot. In this, we can send messages to all members of the crisis team or pick members of the crisis team and send it to them, and we can share information. And this is an ongoing log. So anyone connected to this incident, putting the messages or putting the data or pictures, whatever, into the Crisis Pilot, and it's one place where everything can be found, and you also have a log on it. And we found that to be very, very good. This is not used by the vessels, since we've decided that the vessels will only have one channel to the shore organization, and that's through me. Otherwise, if a lot of people starts calling the master or the chief engineer when something is happening on board the vessel, they will be, they will have a lot to do. So one channel is enough, and then we sort it out on this side. Okay. And otherwise for communication, we provide the information to Josefina and her colleagues so that they can post it on the intranet and also internet, and the HR department manage contact with the desktop Kim. So we got, as we feel ourselves, a good setup for the crisis emergency response team, which is done various parts of the organization, insurance, technical, management, myself, of course, and corporate cooperation, human resources. So everyone we think we can use or we need in a situation like that is drawn into the internet, so to speak.
Yeah. Do you have kind of these different levels of crisis groups that if it's a smaller one, then it's a smaller set of
Yes.
people, and then if it's a bigger one, you make it bigger. So
Yeah,
to
of
speak.
course, we do that.
Yeah.
And we also find out that it's easier to start at full speed and then slow down instead of starting slow speed and then increase, things like this. So perhaps in the initial phase, we call in more people than needed, and then we just can pull down the number of attendees and so forth. And it's the same, both offices, Stockholm and Singapore, cooperates depending on where the vessels are located in the world.
Yeah.
Because if it's somewhere far east, it's easier for the team in Singapore to manage the accident because they're on the same time zone, and same if something happens here, and we are each other's backup.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm interested to hearing about Finnair. I know Finnair is a big stock listed company, so now there's maybe a bit of a difference and from a not listed company and smaller companies. So Arto, would you like to tell us a bit about Finnair's communication?
Sure. Yes. It still seems that after 100 years of flying, aviation is a very interesting industry in the eyes of media. So whatever minor events happen, the phones start to ring. So we better be well prepared to any kind of response to any kind of event that happens to our aircraft's crew members or flights. When it comes to the actual safety events, we of course have the crisis manual describing all the roles and procedures to be used in such an event. We gather a group of people and they take out their checklists and they start communicating to various directions internally and externally. Of course, the authorities and the media are externally the most important ones. I think the process is pretty similar to all of you or your companies. I believe there's no differences, big differences in that sense. We also run a lot of rehearsals so that many times in a year we test the process in the way that we imagine some kind of an event, and it's a surprise to everybody except a couple of ones who actually decide about the rehearsal, and we really try to prove that the process works as it should. So all the relevant people get informed and they take their actions and they complete their duties according to their roles in such an event. I would also like to point out that in less significant events, we have like 5 years, maybe a little bit more, we have had an internal process of communicating about whatever exceptional event during the flight which may raise some questions internally, because we try to cut the rumors as fast as possible. So whatever happens, it may not be an actual safety event, but it's still an exceptional event on the flight, which might lead to some interpretations and misinterpretations. So we try to very actively communicate to all personnel about these kind of events so that we actually can tell the truth of what has happened and also cut the rumors at the first stage that way.
What kind of incidents could these be that you were talking about? Could it be that somebody is not wearing a mask and has been taken away from the plane, or what kind of
Well, it
incidents
might
could
be,
it be?
yeah, it might be that kind of an event, especially these times. It might be just a go around, which for a pilot is it's a normal maneuver. For cabin crew, it's a kind of a normal case, but still, people are not very familiar with those kind of events, so there might be some misinterpretations also, especially if the media takes an active role on describing what could have happened and how close we were to another aircraft, or whatever the assumptions are that you can normally read from the papers. So those kind of events, maybe some unruly passengers on board on some flights, or maybe a diversion to an alternative airport, which again is a normal process if the weather doesn't allow to land on the original airport. But still, these kind of cases may even develop some kind of a fear in people that they assume that we were, close to some significant safety boundary, and we try to tell the truth and try to ease their minds as soon as possible.
Yeah, good. Thank you. So I have another question regarding now the safety culture in your company, and maybe if you could, Arto, start, because I think we all know that the aviation industry is quite far in this promoting safety culture and reporting incidents and so on. So maybe if you could tell us a bit about how you promote this safety culture, and what has worked and what has not in the years you have worked with this.
Well, I think briefly, safety promotion is one of the key elements of safety management in an airline. So we have an established processes for safety promotion. So we do it by all kinds of communication activities, from leaflets to campaigns and events and so forth. So we try to address safety as much as we can, and also make it kind of an everyday sort of an item in our communications. If you listen to some managers from Finnair, they almost in every occasion they somehow bring in the safety perspective to what they say. So that's where it all comes from, and I think the bottom lines in the culture itself are openness. So we don't hide any issues, any events or anything, and reporting, for example, is encouraged, and people understand that the more we get reports, the more we get information about what could have happened, the more prepared we are to actually mitigate the consequences and to avoid the actual adverse events.
But I think that is something where you are very, very far, and the culture is in itself, if it's that good that you can, everyone knows that it benefits everyone to report and so on. But I guess there must be some trust that you know that even if you report something, so to say, very bad, you won't get fired, or nothing will happen to you. So I guess it must have been coming through time that you have worked with this for a long time. But what do you think kind of promotes this safety, or this kind of culture that you really feel that you can report, that it's okay?
Well, I think it all comes down to how each and every report is handled internally, so that the trust is developed throughout the years, and it requires time, but each and every case count in the way that people gradually develop trust in the way the company handles accidents and incidents and safety reports. So that kind of a fear of blame will be reduced by a very like controlled and clear way of handling these cases. So that's the way to build the actual trust. And like we know, we talk about we used to talk about blame-free culture, but now we are talking about trust culture, which is it's a different thing. We are not blame-free culture if somebody deliberately does something hazardous, then there must be consequences. But people can trust nowadays that if they do their best and still something happens, there is no one to blame them. There's investigation carried out towards the system in which they are.
Yes, good. I see Inge is raising a hand here, so please, Inge, you have a comment or a question, I guess.
I would like to add something to what Arthur are saying. And I mean, we are outside we are not a shipping company, but we've worked a lot with several shipping companies, and in their processes of improving safety and safety culture, communication is the most obvious thing to improve. Still, one of the most difficult things to work on, because the way we communicate is very much defined by the culture in the company. And as Arthur said, how open are we? How transparent are we? And how can we trust each other when we are raising our voice, or if we are questioning a decision made by the master or whoever it might be. And what we have seen, and I guess you all have experienced, is that when we read reports from incidents or accidents, we almost always realize that someone did see something, but for different reasons, they didn't dare to speak out or to raise their voice. And it could be, it's not my business. Who am I to tell the master or chief engineer? If everyone else think this is okay, I guess it is, and so on. And when we read the reports and the conclusions, failing communication or bad communication is often defined as a root cause for the incident or accident. From my perspective, it's hard to see that fail in communication is a root cause. I think we always have to ask the why question. Why did the communication fail? Why didn't people speak out? Why did they not ask when they was not sure? And to me, and from what we have experienced, that is, if we want to improve the communication, we have to see the culture in the company as a whole, and work on the company culture, on the leadership, on teamwork, to ensure people have the trust, so they can communicate openly. It's not the lack of platforms or intranet or emails or phone calls that is not the key. I think that the culture of the company, how open are we, how transparent are we, is a key to improve the communication.
Very, very good point there. I totally agree. I agree with you. Does anyone else have a comment on this, that what Inge just spoke about an Arto. Or I would be interested to hear about Eckerö's and Wallenius safety culture and yeah.
Well, maybe I can start. I agree with Arto and Ingrid. I mean, it's for us, it's important to find out what happened and why it happened, not who done it. And as long as nothing done any illegal action or deliberately done something, which then becomes illegal, of course, we have no blame. I mean, we are not looking for who done it. We try to communicate this, and I think it's also a cultural thing, because some persons have easier to understand that we actually mean what we say, and others just think that, yes, this sounds good, but I don't think they really mean it, because they experience the other way around. And that I find out to be quite hard when I started to sail as a master with different cultures of the crew members. It took some time before I can actually can get them to understand that I don't blame you for anything. It's not that. I don't want you to tell me what you think I want to hear. I want to tell you what happened and what not happened. But that I think is a culture thing. But it's just as Inge said, it's very hard. And communication is the toughest thing in the world to reach. I mean, if you've got a group of 10 people and you say something, maybe 5 can understand, and 3 doesn't care, and 2 doesn't understand at all what you mean. So it's very hard to see who is understanding your like message, or whatever you call it. That is what I experienced for my 20 years at this position, and try to explain. And what we do, I mean, we do gather them at conferences, and we have things like educations, and we actually use blah for some training and some cultural information on board the vessels and shoreside officers, and it was good, but you can't stop. This is an ongoing thing. So communication is one of the toughest things there is when you speak to other people, definitely. But I mean, I think we managed to get through to most of the past that we don't have we have an all-blame culture, and it's better to report 3 things than not to report anything at all. So, but once again, it's people and different cultures.
How can you report accidents? Is it through do you have an own system for that, or is it anonymous, or do you do it with your main name?
There is one way in the intranet where the staff members on board the vessel can report, as we said, non-conformities, but then you can report it as well. Otherwise, it normally goes through the normal channels, but everyone on board knows that if they feel that they can't reach through the captain or through any of the officers, they can call me directly, because they all have access to my number, and I'm there for everyone. And that is also one thing I hope has come through. And I have received emails and even phone calls from crew members that have been worried in the past, not so much now. But that's the way we can do it.
Do you also get these near misses or near losses, kind of near accidents?
We do. We would like to see more of them, of course, because that's one way to become better is to identify near misses. But that's also hard, because sometimes people don't want to admit that they've done something that might have caused something, and then something is happening that they say, well, this is normal routines. This is what happens every day. We don't need to report that. So that's one of the hardest things, to get people actually to report near misses. Accidents is one thing, but near misses is another thing.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very good. And what about Eckerö?
Dan is the right person here, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, I think what the others were discussing about no blame culture. That's one of the fundamental things in a safety culture. So that is something, of course, that we are promoting. And if something happens, one important aspect to remember is that the master is always responsible for the safety on board his ship. So in our emergency response team and group, our primary task is to always support the master in his actions and responsibilities on board. And we are, of course, we have a lot of resources and experts, technical, safety, crewing experts, etc. in our group. And we provide all information and support whatever is needed to handle the situation. And we are not trying to, let's say, put any responsibility for the communication on the ships. That is something which is handled by the company and the respective daughter companies like Eckerö Line or Eckerö Linjen or Eckerö Shipping. And the important thing for the master is to feel confident that he gets the support from the office, and the communication will then be handled by the company.
Yeah,
and let's say our main principle is also that if something happens, that we always strive and try to collaborate and cooperate with the authorities, because whatever happens in an incident, there will be some authority which will be involved and normally lead and take charge responsibility for any kind of rescue operation or pollution or whatever it may be. And then it's really important that the company and the authorities, that we give the same information, so we don't have any, let's say, conflicting information or different point of views what actually has happened. So I think that is two of the main things to keep in mind if something happens.
yeah. And do you have this system of for incidents or reporting both incidents and near misses?
Yes, we do. We have a system for that, and it's available for every employee, both on board and ashore.
Okay, can you use it by mobile, or is it through the computer, or how does it work?
Let's say normally it is handled by the captains and the chief engineers on board, but it's available for all crew, and it's you can report it in a paper format or letter, or but then it's handled, of course, through a computerized system, and we handle about, on an average, somewhere between 40 and 60 reports per year.
Okay. And how many of these are about near misses per year? Is it a few, or is it?
Let's say actual accidents or failures are about half of the reports, and the other half consists of near misses and improvement points report.
That sounds like a very good number, because usually the near misses are the hardest to get, I guess. So sounds good. Okay. Then I have a question about target groups and related to this safety culture. So does the communications reach the wanted target groups, and have you felt that with this safety communications that the target group changed their behavior, and if so, why or why not? And this is a question to everyone, if you have some thoughts on this one.
Well, I can maybe start from aviation perspective. I think the structure in this so-called target group is similar to maritime. There's a company and the company management and their communication about safety. That's one of the very important elements in the chain of communication and in safety promotion in general. So like I described, when Finnair management speaks about more or less whatever topic, they somehow bring in the safety perspective, so that kind of it emphasizes the commitment to the safety objectives of the airline. And then in the same way as in maritime, we have aircrafts and we have captains on the aircrafts, and they are like in the operational management position towards the other crew members. So there's a bunch of people and there's captain of the flight, and they are of course the most important operative people to somehow bring up the safety issue, encourage people to communication about their safety concerns, and to somehow promote the open communication about the safety issues. And I would like to address the point that Peter made earlier about the clash of cultures in this matter, because we are also flying with a multicultural crews. There are cabin crews, especially from all parts of the world, Western and especially from East, and we recognize the fact that the sort of the background culture in certain countries and societies are is very different from what we have, for example, in Finland. We are here used to open communication towards anyone, no matter what's his or her rank. But in some other cultures, it's very, very different. And as a captain of the flight, when you have a crew from Japan, Korea, Thailand, you really need to actually put effort on briefing the crew members about your expectations about communication, so that you encourage them to bring out their concerns and to voice their safety concerns, and to somehow build the trust also in that group of people to somehow communicate openly and without fear of, for example, admitting their own mistakes.
Yeah, very good point there. Yeah. What about Wallenius and Eckerö, and how do you feel about this one?
Well, I mean, if you speak with target groups, mainly it's the crew members. I mean, officers and ratings are the targets for the information, and we think that safety culture is not one people's responsibility. It's, I mean, everyone's, but it had to start from the top, of course, because that influences further down in ranks. And I mean, how successful, we can't see that. It's very hard to measure that. I mean, we send out the information, we try our best to inform, and through various means, as Josephine explained, with the digital signboards on board the vessels, we send newsletters, intranet, things like that. But I mean, it's very hard to measure how it's being received and what they actually take with them to change their way of being or operating or so forth. But we can only try and hope that it will. And then, of course, depend on the colleagues on board the vessels, that if someone actually adopts something, that he can then explain to the others, and vice versa. So that is, but otherwise, target, it's the whole crew, not just one person or two persons. There's a community on board, and the crews are not very large, so they need to cooperate, otherwise it won't work.
Yeah, I guess you could maybe measure it or see it in a rate of accidents or even maybe in growing numbers of reports of near misses, because if you promote the culture, it should rise the number of near misses also if it has been lost. But yeah, well, the clock is almost 10 to 3 now, so I think we have the question and answer section that would start now. But thank you for a very, very good discussion to the panelists, and let's see what kind of questions we have.
Yeah, okay. It has been a very interesting discussion, and hopefully you can answer. We have two questions, very good questions actually. So I shall read them to you, and I think either one of you can answer. The first question is also explaining here that crisis communication is important and can lead to a lot of hassle if going wrong. However, through preventive communication, you can avoid the need for crisis communication. Ensure you don't get into a crisis. The challenge seemed to getting the message through. In a recent incident, I asked, "Why did you not follow the instruction?" The answer was, "Oh, was there 2 pages? Did not read the second page." How can you ensure the right info reaches the right person? That's a very good question.
What we have experienced, or I have experienced, is that if you write too long instructions and too much information, it will not be read. I mean, it all depends on what type of information you want to bring forward, but try to keep it as short and fruitful as possible. Not a lot of words, fancy words and things like that. Write it so that everyone can understand it and can easily take it with them, and short. That is my experience.
Have you others any experiences about this? Besides short and simple?
I think Inge raised his hand, so yeah, please.
Yeah, just a short input. I think that I mean we all need systems to ensure that if we have procedures, checklists, they should be available to the people responsible for doing the job. At the same time, compared to for example, the aviation industry, we very often see that the checklists and procedures in shipping seems to be more to cover our back than to be a useful tool for the organization when planning and executing a job. And this is also related to one of the other question and answers. I can see that it's so easy when something goes wrong just to add another bullet on the list instead of rewriting procedures and checklists to make the useful tool for the organization to really use, and then you don't have to use the excuse that I didn't see the second page. It should be much shorter, much sweeter, and designed to be used in the operations, not only to cover over our back.
Great answer, Inge. Did Arto want to say something more to this before we take the next question?
maybe just I feel that this is a general headache of safety management, that we have all these beautiful procedures and so many pages of manuals, and still people are not familiar with all that that we have developed. So I think that's a general dilemma in all safety critical industries on how to develop such safety procedures, such protocols, and such communication that is sort of accessible and useful in those realities where our operative people actually work. So we really need to be very clever in developing all this material and guidelines, and try to somehow integrate as much as possible into the actual situation where the information is required, so that it's available and it's handy when required, instead of having a lot of pages of instructions to be read beforehand if something would happen.
That's a great answer and a great discussion. The last question is also quite long. I read it to you. Is the maritime industry spending too much time advocating slogans and platitudes instead of focusing on tangible factors that research has shown to be highly impactful on safety performance? Is it because it is easier to add more checklists and procedures than teach leaders to focus on creating trust and psychological safety, which will make people feel free to intervene or challenge an unsafe situation? What do you think? I see Inge.
Yeah. Perhaps this is just another slogan, but I like to say that safety is more about dilemmas than about rules. And by that, I think that's a sort of an answer to the question, because we cannot cover everything by rules and procedures and checklists. I think it's important to build a mature organization able to handle the conflicting goals of production and protection. I mean, every day people are in a situation where they have to choose production or protection, and the rules cannot cover all those situations, and we have to deal with the dilemmas. And then I think it's important to build a culture where people are able to assess the risks, evaluate pros and cons, and make the correct decisions based on the information they have. So I stick more to the dilemmas and to handle those than I stick to the rules and expand the amount of rules in the organization.
Yeah, that was a great conclusion and a broad aspect to the question. Does anyone have any comments on that? I think from the communications department, I think you have another maybe perspective when you are not just looking at safety, more how the communication goes and flows. Do you have any comments, Josephine or Ken, to this?
I can't say I have actually. I think it's more Peter's answer there.
I agree. I don't see what it's about safety mainly and procedures and the checklist and so on. Can't do so much as a communicator in that case, in that sense.
I think though communication, I think we can learn from each other, and I think we have done that today. I want to summarize a little bit what we have talked about today. That I think our industries use a broad communication channel with a lot of tools, as we discussed, and the problem maybe can be sometimes to make sure people dare to speak up, and that the right information gets prioritized in somehow. And we also talked a lot about the non-blame culture today, that is important to avoid accidents. And also about culture and other culture and how those are affecting behaviors and so on. So it's good to have cultural knowledge when you deal with a lot of people. Okay, thank you very much for today. I think we had a really great panel today. This will also be recorded, so you can use it afterwards also. Thank you for today, and thank you also all attendees.
Thank you
And
very much.
Marina, our great moderator for today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you all. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.